after 9 o'clock. It seemed like forever. That music just went on too long if you're listening live, but if you're watching on YouTube, it just started. I just thought maybe, here's the truth. It's really getting under my skin, Robin. It's just all this computer stuff is really, maybe I need some help. Dr. Victoria Colleli is in the studio. She is a licensed mental health counselor. She holds a doctorate in Christian counseling and temperament therapy. That's what I need. That's my thing right there. I need some temperament therapy. Good morning, doctor. How are you doing?
Good morning. How are you doing?
You look so nice. You always come in here with a smile. Are you a happy person normally?
I try to be, and I love this part of my day and my week. I love being here.
Do you think that the world would be better if we were happier? It's kind of a dumb question, I guess.
I think so. And really, it's not easy to do. You have to really sometimes work on being happy. And I had a professor, I have to give him kudos. One time I had went through something really pretty traumatic. And I came to class in tears, so I had my shades on in class. And I know he had been through something very similar.
Oh, really?
And I said, how did you do it? That's all I could ask. I couldn't even get the words out of my mouth. He goes, I made a choice to. And when I learned that I had the power to be however I wanted to be, to feel however I wanted to feel, that was very empowering to me. He gave me that key.
That's
it doesn't
great.
matter what someone does to you, what happens in your life, because that's life. Sometimes it's not the greatest. But you can decide how you're going to react. You can decide how you're going to feel. And then I just try to, and I have great people in my life who give me a reason to be happy, and
that is really brilliant.
That's the key.
Do you know what I think sometimes? Sometimes if I'm like giddy happy, that I'm always afraid I'm jinxing myself, so I better bring it down a notch.
No, it's okay.
It's okay to be
I used
happy?
to think that way too. Like, I wouldn't say like great things happening in my life. What if that jinxing, the enemy's listening? But I used to keep it quiet too. But being on this show, and people have come up to me in public saying, oh, are you Dr. Colleli from the radio show? I'm like, oh, people are listening. So it just feels good to give back to so many people need to hear good things. So I'm just glad to be here and be able to give that to them.
Yeah. So do people come to you, and is it what we envisioned? They're lying on a couch or sitting across from you on a chair? How does it work?
They can come any way they want. Sometimes it's through Skype because they're kind of nervous, coming into a doctor's office, right. Or they don't have the means to get there, or they're in a different state. But usually I have two very comfy chairs in my office. Mm-hmm. I'm sitting in one, they're sitting in another. I don't have a couch in my office. I think that's too cliche-ish.
Do you know Howard Stern was on an interview with Bill Maher, and he was promoting his book. That's why so it was a recent one. Mm-hmm. And he told him that he's been in therapy for like 24 years or something like that. And Bill Maher made the statement, oh, come on, they're ripping you off. And Howard Stern said, no. This has helped me a lot. And if you know him, I don't know him personally, but he's kind of a lot calmer now than he used to be. A lot more mellow, and some people make fun of that, but...
Well, it could be therapy, or it could be age. We mellow out, I think, with age. It's like things that used to get us all excited before really don't. I think I'm that way. I'm pretty, I think, even kill most of the time. Like, I'm pretty even temperament. It takes a lot to get me all worked up or excited, but once I'm there, forget about it. I'm Italian, but no.
I'm Italian.
There you go. But no, I therapy helps, and because even though what we learn in therapy, we can transfer it to different situations. Just like, in your job, you learn job skills. You should be able to learn skills that transfer to almost any job. But then again, like a new job or new setting or new people, things come up, and maybe there's a little added factor. Maybe you don't know how to work with that. So if it's working for him, I think it's great. And if other people can observe the change, could, and I'm so glad he's bringing an awareness and less stigma too. It's kind of like, back in the day we had, 3 generations living in one house. So you go to grandma or grandpa for advice. They've been there, they've done that. I'm fortunate, I'm the youngest sibling, so I would go to my siblings, hey, how did you deal with this? You did this with mom and dad, how did that work out for you? So I learned a lot by observation. I'm 9 years younger than my brother.
Oh, wow.
So, but we don't have a lot of that anymore. Families grow up, they move out. There's not always different cultures have different generations living in one house, but mostly Americans don't do that anymore. So who do you go to for advice? you go to someone, a therapist, a professional. Really you're going for, and we don't give advice, so let me not use that word, but it's someone to really ping off your ideas, because if you keep it in your head, you can't hear your thoughts. It's either write it down or talk to someone. If you can just hear what you're saying, hear yourself, you can solve your own problems.
Do you know in advance what your client is going to be speaking about
yes.
before they come in to see you?
I don't want to waste their time or their money. Plus, my reputation means a lot. So I get some information on why are you coming, because maybe I can't help them. Maybe it's a situation that I'm not the best person to. I'd refer them to someone else. I also believe that don't try to do something you're not good at. I would never go be a mechanic and work on someone's brakes. Mm-hmm. They would sue me because I'd be driving and the brakes wouldn't work. So it's the same, like we may be in a profession, but we should not dare think that we know everything of that one career. So I do like to know why they're coming, first of all, to make sure I can help them. But second of all, I want to be prepared with data, statistics, treatment, so when they come in my office, we can work on something. They're not just coming and I'm listening to their story. I want to do some work with them. So I definitely want to be prepared.
Should everyone go to therapy?
I don't know. I can't answer that. Everyone has their, sometimes therapy is taking a walk. Sometimes it's demolition on a house if they're, building construction.
Yeah.
Therapy is different.
That does work.
Therapy is riding a horse.
Oh,
there's
gosh.
so many things. Whatever makes you feel better or maybe helps give you clarity, that's what you should do. I don't think everyone should. In therapy, we say we shouldn't use the word should. You have to, because who are we to say? If you think it would help you, then by all means. But I don't think everyone has to. Other people they have their mom or their dad or their grandparents or an aunt or an older, they have someone who they can speak to and give them that direction without judging them, see, as therapists, we don't judge and we don't advise. It's, well, what do you think is best? Because I only go off what you're telling me. You may not be telling me the truth. You may not be telling me the whole story. So I can't dare say, well, this is what you should do. Mm-hmm. I just help you realize what you're saying. Sometimes your body movement or your body language doesn't match what you're saying, or you might be saying stuff and it contradicts what you said before. So we bring that to light. Or, you're talking about this, I see that you're shaking. Sometimes people don't realize how they feel when they talk about it. So we bring all of that to light.
What do you think is more emotionally stressful, losing somebody to death, or like a spouse? I don't mean a child, that would be even worse, but like a spouse to death. Or losing a spouse to like Alzheimer's, where they're still alive but they're not here anymore. Because I've witnessed that too, and I think that's my own opinion. That seems
funny
worse.
You bring that up because I was thinking of that when I came in here today. Fortunately, I've never lost a spouse. Period. But I'm thinking about my parents, and I've not lost one to Alzheimer's. I have lost them to cancer, but not Alzheimer's. Of course, at the very last stages, she didn't remember who I was. She didn't know where she was. So that was my mom.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
So it's coming up on the second anniversary of that.
Oh my
happening.
gosh.
Yeah,
it's
a couple
still
weeks.
New.
It is. So I don't know if there's anyone that, if you have this balancing beam of what's worse, I think they're both awful to lose someone you care about, whether it's to death or, their mind goes and then they go. I can imagine that's not easy because you're there, them, but it might be a reprieve. Okay, well, maybe they don't feel as much because they don't have the cognition.
Could I tap into the Christian counseling part of your credentials on that very subject? Because I knew a guy. This was a place I worked at, so I didn't know him like a real close person. But his wife was in the memory support unit at an assisted living facility, which is where I worked. They apparently had a loving relationship forever, and the daughter would show up. The daughter was my age, so these people were up there in age. But the father was healthy. The mother was in Alzheimer's unit, and he would be there every day. He was there every day to eat with her. Yeah, like in the Notebook. But he also had a girlfriend. And so his dilemma was, because he was a religious man, am I somehow violating my what do you call it, my vows, my
marriage vows?
Yeah, am I committing adultery? Maybe is what he was thinking. What is your thought on that? What would you tell him? You wouldn't give advice, you said, but how would you?
And I wouldn't even judge because if that's what he needs, I would more or less build that relationship with him. so that I could figure out what is he doing, why is he doing this. From just my outside perspective and not being in it, I could kind of see why he's doing that. But again, I'm not one to judge. So it would be really building that rapport with him, and maybe how does it affect his kids? Is it affecting his kids? What do they think about that?
Yeah.
His wife obviously probably has no clue.
Right.
And I could be wrong, but I know men like that support. They like that companionship. I think we all do, but I think especially men love companionship. Maybe he felt like since his wife's mind wasn't there, they didn't have that relationship anymore.
Yeah.
That it's got to be tough also on him. That the husband.
Yeah, because I remember the conversation coming up with his daughter saying, "Dad, don't worry about it. You have to have a life too," but he was worried about the religious aspect. And I remember saying to him, "Go to your pastor or somebody."
So, when we have because we all have a conscience, so when we're thinking that way, obviously it's bothering him. So he thinks he's doing something wrong. He needs to deal with that. Yeah, just like, say, anxiety. Anxiety comes up because your body is telling you something's not right, whether it's your thoughts, whether it's something's going on, and you have to deal with that. Not, taking a pill, okay, that's okay, nothing against that, but is that solving the problem? It's not. Your emotions are your warning signals something is off. So there's nothing wrong with having emotions or a conscience. It's just telling you something's not right. Figure out what it is. How do we solve it?
Yeah.
Do you encourage your patients to journal?
Yes.
Oh,
Now,
really?
sometimes guys aren't. Women are big on that. But guys might go tell their buddy, they might go have a beer or whatever it is, or maybe they just have their
I know, I
time
always
to
do.
themselves. So if it helps, again, some of them just might want to, especially men might want to record their voice, or maybe not at all. So it just depends on, I think journaling is very therapeutic, but it depends on the person.
Interesting. Yeah, it's interesting how, like when you see recently the autobiographies, if you will, of Elton John and Bruce Springsteen, and I'm thinking, well, these guys are already famous. Why do they feel a need to further their ego by, we need another book about me? Isn't that weird?
I don't know if it's ego. I think it's more of cathartic, like, let me get this out, or maybe whatever they've went through, they can help someone else, because we all know most people who are successful, that didn't come easy. So maybe there's a struggle there, a lesson they want to teach someone. I didn't read the book, I don't know, but I don't know if it's so much ego stroking. I can tell you if I know what their temperament is, but it could just be this catharsis of, let me get this out, can I help somebody?
I listened to the Springsteen book, I listened to the audiobook, and it was a long book. But he went through a period of time where he would break down and cry. He was needing help.
We have
so bad.
no idea what they've been through, and we all think, oh, look, they're having this great life. They've went through stuff. Like you said, the first thing, I'm always smiling, always happy. I have a story to tell too, just like everyone does. But it's making that decision that you're going to be happy, that you're going to keep going. That's what we have to do.
So let's go back to that, because that's an interesting thought. What would you tell somebody who has a hard time just simply changing their mind about how they feel?
It takes a lot. It's not easy. It's whatever works for them. And again, I'd have to get to know them. It could be hang around people who talk positivity into your life. Find out what makes you happy and go do it no matter what. Even if you don't, it's like sometimes we don't feel like working out. We know it's good for us. We're going to do it anyway. We don't feel like it, but once we're starting, okay, we feel good. We may not feel like going to work. We may not feel like coming into work, but you do it because you have to. But once you get there, it's like, okay, I'm glad it. So if we wait till we feel like doing something, we may never do anything. So you just have to know, okay, this is what's best for me. I'm going to do it. Why? Because I am worth it. So you get it with that mindset. Okay, it may not feel okay today, but eventually it will come. Have that faith and that hope and that confidence in yourself. Things will change. This is just a point, and I think it's great you bring up biographies. I read those all the time because I know people struggle, like, okay, if they did it, I can do it.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? Or I connect with someone who I know that I trust, who's been through something similar than me, and I go and talk with that person.
And that's one thing about the psyche of the general public. I mean, you've got people out there that live a good life and they don't hurt anybody or harm anybody. They still have things to share with people, but people would rather go hear somebody who's been a mass murderer and he's been, saved by the Lord and things, and then they'd rather go hear him than somebody that's, walked the straight and narrow all their life.
Well, and it's really hard even for me to share share, okay, I'm going through this struggle. Saying that alone is very difficult to do. And then finding someone you trust who won't judge you, who won't tell everyone else, that's hard right there. So you're talking about going to like a story of a mass murder where everyone knows that this story is out there, that's easy to attain. But really keeping it confidential and getting to know someone and really opening up and letting them know a little bit about you, that's scary, that's hard. Reading the story about someone who's not even relevant to me, who's way out there, that's easy. There's no emotion attached there. That's easy for me to do. He won't know anything about me. I learned from him. But really finding someone closer that you can actually share a little bit, that's how we grow. You really have to have that, bring down that wall, share a little, be a little vulnerable, but then realize, oh, wow, they went through the same thing I did. And look how this is how, and then my next one would be, how did you get through it? That's my question. I don't tell a lot about me. I'll tell a little bit. Well, how did you get through it? That's what I want to know. I'm a to the point, how do we resolve? I know that this may be what I'm going through. How do I change that track? They'll tell me. If I think it works for me, I'll use it. If not, go on. One thing Bruce Lee said, he takes what works for him, whatever doesn't work for him, he just puts it to the side. He doesn't stop anyone. He doesn't shut them up. He's not rude. He just listens and filters. What works for him, he used. What didn't work, he put it to the side. And that's what I do. If it works for me, I use it. So that's a lot of reading, a lot of documentaries, and really not even talking to people, listening to their story, observing them, and knowing something went on
See, that's
here.
another difference. I think I mentioned this once before, that what you do is harder than a heart surgeon, because in a heart surgeon's case, and I know they're all different, but they're all the same also. The heart looks like this, works like this, and behaves like this. In your case, each person, you really got to know a lot before you can start maybe giving some direction.
You got it. It's kind of like no one likes profiling, but that really is beneficial to the FBI. It helps them do a lot of tasks, generalizing. We have to do that. But when you have someone individually in your office, everyone with anxiety isn't the same. I can't put the same prescription for that. It doesn't work that way. It's not like a psychiatrist. And nothing against psychiatrists. Medicine works for some people. But you're right. I have to spend that time, help them build that trust in me, get to know them before I can even give them any kind of direction, because it's personal for that person, because their lives are different, their environment's different, their mentality is different. So I have to really know what is their perspective, what is their personality, because they're going to react differently. What is their living, talking to a single mom of 4 kids is different than talking to a 19-year-old teenager who has no responsibility. They may both have anxiety. I'm just keep using that same diagnosis because it's easy to go to, but their therapy is going to be different. And if then you throw personality in there, and how I approach them is different. If they're a sanguine personality, they want to hug me and come in and hug me. If they're melancholy, I got to stay back, stay professional. So I have to read all of this. So that the first 5-10 minutes, I have to know all of that. I can't ask them any of that. I have to know that. And then I listen to them, and how they speak is also how they listen. So it depends on, and that's a whole big thing, but how they speak to me, then I know how they're thinking. My boss taught me that. So it's with time and getting educated and practice. And it's just, you're right, it's very individualized. It's very individualized. That's the best word I can think of. There is no mathematical equation. Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. There's no changing. It's that easy. That's why I love math. It's black and white. It's black and white. You put in the equation, you get the answer. In therapy, it's not that way.
So when you are giving therapy to an individual, if you find that there's a family issue, do you also give therapy to all the family members?
If they're okay with that, I encourage it, because it's kind of like, let me take the pig out of the sloth. I can clean it up. But if they go, and I could do all this therapy, I could feed it great food and all that. If I just send it right back to where it was, nothing's changed, and everything I did is for naught. So you can't just change or help the person. You also have to affect the environment they're going back into.
And you do that with all the family members together at some point?
To. Yeah. It's kind of like marriage family. I could talk to the wife, but until I can get both of them together, how effective is it really going to be? Because I don't want him thinking we're talking about him, which we don't. But, you have to fix the whole, you can't just, have a great roof on a house. If the foundation is messed up, then it doesn't matter how good your roof is. You've got to fix the whole thing. It's not just the person. It's, what if it's the job? What if it's the home? What if it's, their parents dying of cancer? It's not just that person also that you deal with. So then it gets even bigger.
So the thing you said before about the guys just get together and we get a beer and stuff like that. So I got a real quick story to tell you. I knew a guy, and he and his wife, they weren't exactly as they were when they first fell in love. And he said, well, yeah, I'm working on it. And I said, well, buy her a Valentine's card or something. And he laughed. But that's all I needed to say. And then I guess the message that I
do something
without realizing it, my message was be a little bit romantic, do something, and without a whole lot of talking.
Right. You don't need, especially for men, you don't need a whole lot of talking. It's very, and you don't even need to say it directly, just like that. It's very simple. And then some personality, women with personality, like I'm that way. Get to the point, let's move on, but that's my personality. Some people, you need to paint this big picture, and like again, how they talk to me. If they're taking this long, like a family circus cartoon, to get to the point, then I know I got to be patient and listen. And when I respond, I have to give more detail. I can't just be, this is it. So I have to really listen to how they're speaking to me on how I'm going to respond to them.
I wanted to get your number out there so people could call you. What's the best way to contact you?
Okay, so there's two numbers they can call, 352-224-9754 or 352-216-8773. They can reach me at drcolleli@gmail.com or find my profile on Psychology Today.
Can you help us understand how we pay for what your services are? Is it insured? Do we use insurance? Or?
Yeah, they can use insurance. Some of them have the little health savings card. Some pay with that. I pay cash is great. So.
Yeah, cash is always good.
Cash is always good.
Do you ever have children coming?
I do.
Oh, really?
I do.
And I'm guessing they go through everything the same as adults do.
Unfortunately, they do, and sometimes it's the adults' fault.
I bet.
They go through a lot. The kids today, but also adults are going through. There's a lot of single parent homes, men and women. I have friends that's both single parent mothers, single parent fathers. It seems like today people don't want to be responsible. I don't get it, and I don't think they realize how much it affects the kid. So kids are going, and then you have testing in third grade. I just think I don't have any positive thoughts on that. I think it's too much for our kids. So they're going through a lot.
Do guidance counselors sometimes recommend therapy for the children?
Yes, I was a school guidance counselor for 4 years. Yes, all schools I know in Marion County, those counties I worked in, Lee County, Alachua County, they have those connections with counselors in the community. They just send in the referral to the agency. As long as the parents are okay with it, they go to the home or to the school to counsel the child. They don't have to bring the child to the center. Yeah, it definitely doesn't hurt.
Oh my gosh!
But I'm a big advocate, obviously, for it.
The conversations that you had with the Lieutenant Colonel Regis, that was very enlightening. It was interesting to listen to, and even though we are not all serving over in Afghanistan and going through some of the stuff he's going through, some of it could be relatable to this, just going to work or living a life.
PTSD or anxiety, stress, leadership, that could be parents, that could be a boss. Yeah, those questions that he had were related for military, but they can definitely be relatable to anyone in any environment.
Do you ever look at the political candidates, how nasty they are to one another, and wonder how do they handle it? Can you imagine?
The few that I've watched, I know Obama was never nasty to anyone, and that gave me a lot of respect. So there's some presidential candidates who, that's how they are, and I even watch them without the sound to watch their body language.
Oh, yeah.
And right away I'm like, I don't care what you say because you're probably lying anyway.
Yeah.
If I watch your body language and you're looking at someone rude or you're shaking your head, or the body language tells me a lot, I just won't vote for you.
We should get a T-shirt that says, "You're probably lying anyway." Oh, we got to go. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm Chris Foster. Ahead of a federal trial starting in Ohio today over opioid addiction, 4 of 5 drug makers or distributors, the Wall Street Journal reports, have settled out of court. Sunrise in Dallas will make it easier for search teams to assess tornado damage